evening. I have a story for you from the Glasshouse Mountains in Australia. It was a bright, crisp autumn morning with just the hint of an early morning frost sparkling on the grass. The sun rose over the Glasshouse Mountains, spreading its rays across the plain. Then rays danced towards the ridge and onto the road, which runs from Nambour at one end of the ridge through to Mullaney at the other, passing through the little towns of Montville and Flaxton. I stood on the vantage point opposite the derelict Tudor-style inn, just outside the little village of Flaxton, and gazed in wonder at the majestic mountains below me. I could see the distant blue smudge of the Pacific Ocean, and on the plain below were the distinctive plugs of once active volcanoes, which range in height from 100 to 556 metres. According to the guidebook, Captain Cook was the first Westerner to set eyes on these wonderful mountains, which reminded him so much of the glass houses or greenhouses back in England that he decided to call them the Glasshouse Mountains. The mountains, however, have a much older story, steeped in the mists of time and Aboriginal legend. The legend refers to all the mountains as people, so for the purpose of this story, I will refer to them as people. Back in the mists of time, on the plains beneath the ridge, there lived a handsome young man called Tubogaran, I will call him Tib, and a beautiful young woman called Berhwa, I will call her Bee. Of course, the inevitable happened. They fell in love. Well, pretty soon their first baby came along. He was just perfect, and they called him Kunrin. He was soon followed by Kuchin, Nangong, Tebawangkyung, and Ellenworth. Mekalambo and the twins. Nobody could tell them apart, so they went by the name Tubodola. Some years passed and they were a happy family, doing all the things families like doing together. Then Bee became pregnant again, and as the pregnancy went on, she found it more and more difficult to get about. Tib spent a lot of time by the seashore, gazing out to sea and fishing. One day, as he was sitting gazing out to sea, thinking deep and meaningful thoughts, he noticed that the level of the sea was rising. That could only mean one thing, a tidal wave. He had to get his family to safety. He scooped up the twins, one under each arm, yelled out to the other children to run as hard as they could for the ridge. He shouted to his oldest son, Kun, to help his mother. Kun yelled back that his mother was big enough to look after herself. This infuriated Tib. Making sure the twins were safe, he turned and ran after Kun and hit him such a blow with his club that he dislocated his neck. Today the mountain called Kunrin has a crooked top. Tib was so furious with his eldest son that even today he has turned his back on him and continues to look out to sea. It is generally believed that legends have some element of truth in them, and whilst I do not believe that these mountains were once people, I do believe that there were families like them around in antiquity. But it seems to me that this story is not confined to antiquity. It's very relevant today. We hear tales of families and people falling out with each other and not speaking, bearing grudges and feeling anger towards that person for something they've said or supposed to have said, or something they've done and it has been misconstrued. And so the legend grows and the hurt gets deeper. Time rolls by and some never ever resolve the conflict. They stubbornly face the sea, like Tib. Often the other party is completely unaware of what they've done or said to cause the rift. And because the other person will not communicate, they are unable to resolve the matter. So they just shrug their shoulders and leave the other person to wallow in their negative feelings. Modern-day gurus advise people to think through situations and words before they use them. They advise positive thinking and actions rather than negative. The need for a positive self-image for everyone has come to the fore. Some sound advice is found in the Bible. The Apostle James, in his book, advises us to control our tongues and be careful in everything we say, because the tongue, although little, can start off a train of events that can be devastating. He advises us to stop being selfish, thinking only of ourselves and how things affect us. D.H. Lawrence once said, "If only we could have two lives, The first in which to make our mistakes, and the second in which to make our in which to profit by them. But there is no dress rehearsal in the play of life. We just have to play the role as it unfolds, interacting positively or negatively with those who play their roles around us. Today, please do not be like Tib and turn your back on someone who has upset and hurt you. Rather go to that person or write a letter and ask for their forgiveness and restore your relationship to the happy one it once was. I hope that that helps some of you if you have a conflict with people. Bye.